you turn him up some more, Sam?
No, he's good.
Oh, is
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I don't hear him like I hear y'all.
That's because you got all those drums behind
He
you.
was good. Yeah.
Listen. I don't know what store this is, but
Double drums
if
now.
anybody wants to know if Terry Baker had a drum career, this is the proof right here. I dare a drummer tell me Terry Baker ain't traveled the world. You know, the last person I saw with this kind of drums was Marvin McQuitty. He had shown me a lot of his stuff behind him, and it's like you just never a real drummer care about this kind of stuff, you know? It's like,
Listen, it builds houses.
listen, now that statement right there is actually very hilarious. I live because of these things behind here. Y'all live because y'all doing something else. Look at here. This is amazing. This is amazing. I ain't never. You got all them drums there. No, listen. I know we about to get started, but listen. One of the things I was just thinking about before coming on here was when we was playing basketball. Rick, I had to hold Sam. Sam ain't gonna let nobody. I don't care if they tall, short, bigger. He ain't gonna let no man think they stronger than him. It was the hardest workout I ever had. I was trying to keep up with Sam. I would push Sam push me back. I'm like, wait a minute, we friends. What are we doing? Sam was like, get rid of them. Sam was like, push. I was like, man, I gotta now turn into a man right now. Like, me and Sam wore each other out that day. I don't know. I was tired that day. That was just hilarious, but it's so funny.
Man.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Yes,
Brother Asaph
Oh, man.
Ward, everybody. Man, it's good to see you, man.
Thanks, Rick, man. It's good to see you, too. Now, Terry, I don't know if you know this, but Rick went to college with my older brother, James. So
I didn't know that.
when I met Rick, I was 16, 17 years old. Rick was in college. He was playing an Ibanez red guitar. I'll never forget it. And he went to FAMU with my brother James. That's when I first met Rick. And I remember me and Andrew was playing with Rick. He was playing guitar, and my brother James was playing bass, I think, and we was playing for a workshop. I mean, I'm 17. Yep. So that's how far we go back, you know.
Yep.
And I'll never forget, Rick, it wasn't a chord. I was like, man, he playing every chord I'm playing. You know, Rick knew chords when I was 17. I was like, this is what we missing. We went back home talking about, because Deadbolts was our go-to. We was like, Deadbolts could play chords. He playing muted rhythm. He playing, man, this dude Rick, he playing everything. He doing everything. I never forget, we went home just talking about Rick. And then it's funny now, we see him on everything. And it's just laughing because we go back to when no one knew who we were. They didn't care who we were. Nobody knew they didn't know what none of us was. It was just a great time. So me and Rick go back, man. It's so funny.
Yeah. Y'all did a workshop with your mother.
With my mother. Absolutely.
Yes,
wow.
Sir.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I was 17. So
I was about 18.
You was about 18. Yeah. You
18, 19.
Fresh in college. So it's like, that's how long we've kind of known each other. And I've known Terry just about that long, almost. Like, it was very early 20s for me, you know. And so I met them all. It's like we've been knowing each other for a long time. Anyway, I had to get that out. This family right here is funny. All right. But you know what? Let me say this. Let me say this, Rick. Something Rick can appreciate. It was that visit, Rick, when I met you, that I knew I couldn't go to college. Because one of the reasons why I went is because I was going to get a full ride at FAMU. But my whole life, I've always been older than what I really was. I was an MD at age 14. So I always had somebody, they're in their 20s. Most of my band was in their 20s, and their leader was a 14-year-old. So I always grew up. So then the whole life of going to clubs and putting on suits and stuff. And, you know, I was doing that in the 21 and over clubs. I was 15. So it's like I lived a crazy life. So when I went and visited Terry and Sam, when I visited FAMU, I've never been to a college outside of like community college, something before. It was a campus full of get in trouble. And there was no parental guidance. There was no parental nothing on campus. And because because for whatever reason, and I had twins with me too. I had Keith and Kevin Nesbitt. The twins were with me. And those are my best friends. They were with us. And the truth is, we was already living in that life, going to clubs and stuff back then. When I went to that college campus, I already knew I wanted to be a record producer. By the end of that visit, I said, these women are going to keep me from being a record producer. And I'll never forget coming home, telling my mom what I experienced. And I told her, Mom, and I was in tears. I promise you. I said, I'm not going to be a producer if I go to college. It's just too many distractions.
Wow.
You know, this party,
That's crazy. You would tell your mom that.
I told my mom and dad, I sat them down because I was supposed to go to college the next year. And though I would have been in good hand now, at the time, James, my brother, was going to be exiting soon. So it's like, it was I told her there was no parental supervision. And if I'm afraid that if I go to that school, I'm not going to be a record producer. And my parents told me, they said, well, Asaph, they said, if we don't force you to go to college, you have to promise us that you're going to be one of the top 10, gospel music producers out there. If you promise us that, we won't force you to go. And that's when I started my journey of, I have to be this, because I told my parents, if I don't go to college, I got to be this thing. And that started my journey. It was when I first met you, and I saw y'all was doing it. It's obviously possible. I just didn't think I could. I think distractions would have kept me, from producing. I had to really learn how to be a producer. And it was just so many women in college. I was like, this is no supervision. I was like, I can't do this. And I went home and I cried. I told my parents I can't do it. And they didn't force me to go. And this is a true story. So a lot of my inspiration and fire for becoming whoever I am today was because I had to keep my promise to my parents that I was going to be one of the top guys doing the music, or I need to go to college. And I still encourage people to go to college. I just knew I was about to lose. I was going to come out of college, probably being a good musician, but the journey that I wanted to be a record producer, it was so fresh and it was so heavy at the time. I had just gotten over my pride that I don't have to be the best keyboard player.
Yeah.
So I was ready to be a producer now. I'm like, I don't have to be better than this person, better than that person. I can be okay. Oh, I'm about to be a producer. I'm about to be Quincy Jones. I'm about to be David Foster. Listen, them women showed me I wasn't going to be that. And I said, So anyway, that's how I started my journey. It was your trip. I mean, I went to see you guys.
Because that's a different school. That is a school, but it wasn't FAMU, that record producer school. And you needed to go to that school.
Yeah. Whatever that was.
And we're the better for it.
Yeah.
God knows.
Yes, sir.
God knows. You have been a pillar in the gospel music community, bro, for over 20 years. And a lot of guys owe their inspiration. A lot of guys owe credits to music to you.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we'll get there, but we know, I mean, one of the top probably 5 gospel records of our generation. I mean, come on, that thing changed lives. You're an agent of change.
Oh man, I'm humbled.
Let's set up who Asaph Ward is. For the people, your name is a common name in our business. Now people are gonna put name to face, and but also, I know you're from a musical family. Talk about that a little bit. Give me your musical inspirations in your family and who does what and how you got involved.
Well, it's kind of like I kind of tell the story in the beginning of my record of what happened with me. But I got a musical family. My mother is she was a songwriter. She wrote over 200 songs. She was a state minister of music. She had choirs and she trained vocalists. She was a vocal trainer. So I came up under that. By the time I was born, we was like, you're going to do something musical. You're going to sing in that choir or you're going to play an instrument. So my brother James, we know he played horns. That's what actually got him his scholarship. I was in a house where a brother was going to state every year with his tuba. And my brother Andrew was just the premier drummer of the city. You know,
a lot of people don't know that. Yeah, your brothers are cold.
Yeah, they great, and I have them both on my record, so I'm kind of proud about that. But the thing is, being the youngest boy, I was always in their shadow. So I got a brother who's theoretically getting ones at state every time he goes, and then I got this older brother who always got chosen to play the drums over me. Because I was the younger and I was a drummer. That's just kind of what I was. That's what I loved. And if I wasn't playing drums, I was singing soprano with my mother. You couldn't go outside and play.
Soprano is insane.
That's crazy, dog.
I was 7, 8 years old. We had a group called Donna Ward and Sons. So it was me, my brother Andrew, and my mom. My mom alto, Andrew was tenor, and I was soprano. I kind of broke the band up when my voice started doing the Peter Brady thing. I started getting a lower voice and I couldn't sing soprano no more. And then that's when I saw that on the Brady Bunch, I said, man, that's what happened to me, you know. But my mom trained us. I was in the studio with my mom stacking vocals at 8 years old. My mother was like, okay, you gotta do 5 more of these. You gotta do 4 more of these. Yeah, sing it just like that again, but you gotta do that. My mama had me stacking when I was 8. And so it was like I was always exposed to that type of thing. And my mom, unlike a lot of families, being Church of God in Christ, there was a lot of stuff we couldn't listen to, but my mom was a creative. She had everything in the house. We was listening to Parliament. We was listening to Billy Preston. We was listening to Hawkins. We was Andre Crouch, Gap Band. We was listening to Zap. My mama had us listen to everything. Sugar Hill Gang. We had all of that at the house. So my mom didn't, though that she was from an organization that didn't endorse listening to all music, my mother loved music. So we was able to listen to everything. We didn't get in trouble for the music we listened to in the house because we were trying to figure out how to play it. We wasn't trying to live it. We wasn't trying to do all of that. So that's the music family part. And then it got to the point to where my brother just, y'all know the most favorite part of the service that people get to play, and that's offering.
Yes,
I never got a chance to really play an offering. And the day that I had an opportunity to play for offering for one of the biggest musicals, it's very clear because I knew the song. And my brother was proud of me. Andrew was never the type of person to make me feel bad. My brother always was trying to encourage his little brother. I wanted to be like him. Well, anyway, it was my turn to play. I got on the drum kit. And I got ready. I was ready to count the song off. This is my chance, finally. My brother's smiling at me. And right before I can count the song off, whoever was on the keyboards, I'm going to call him an MD or a BD because he must have been in charge. He said, hold on now. He leaned over. He said, hey, man, let your brother play. Oh, I was 13. Listen here. And I looked at my brother. I heard the violins, and he was looking at me, man, like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. And all I knew is that was the camel that broke the straw, the straw that broke the camel's back. I got up off their drums and I ran downstairs in the basement of that church and I cried like a baby. And my mom came down there and she says, well, you know, your brother, he's older. They always this is what it's like. You know, they want the best. And I just know that I'm always going to be in my brother's shadow. I'm never going to be like him. He's pocket. He understands. He just gets it. And I'm younger. So my mother said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you to the Edwin Hawkins Music and Art Seminar so you can hear Joe Smith play drums. Maybe he can inspire you to get better. This is 13. So
what a thing to say.
Oh, this is where my mom's head was. She was like, we're going to go to the seminar. She said, because she had just met, my mom was crazy. When I was younger, the Hawkins family came to Kansas City and she snuck backstage and I was with her. And I just remember as a young boy hearing her, what she was telling Edwin Hawkins. Yes, I'm Donna Ward. I'm a studying this music here and I'm da-da-da-da. And I have this, da-da-da-da. Have you ever thought about starting a chapter here? And I would like to. So my mom got involved with the Hawkins back then. And so she would go to the seminar. She said, I'm going to take you. You're 13. It's cool. I'm going to take you and your brother, but you can get inspired by watching Joe Smith. I was so excited. Got some drumsticks, packed it. I'm like, man, I'm going to go learn and get inspired. And instead of when I got there and I was hearing Joel and everything, I got distracted by that doggone Kevin Bond. Kevin Bond was a 19-year-old MD back then. So I met Kevin when he was 19. And I was 13. And the band was Kevin Bond on mains, Jonathan DeBose on guitar, Joe Smith on drums, and Andrew Goucher on bass. So at age 13, and on the organ was this guy named Daryl Johnson from Houston, and then David Blakely. They let him play one song. Like back then, he would like play as well. Jimmy Newble would show up sometime when Goucher would give him an opportunity to play, but that was the band. And I went there to learn how from Joe, and I heard Kevin playing, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, because my mama played keyboards, but it never hit me like that. It hit me, and then Thomas Whitfield played a song on Wednesday night on the piano. So after Kevin, I heard Thomas. I was like, "What is that? Like, this is crazy." And I'll never forget. And Kevin knows the story. Jonathan DeBose. That's why we're all kind of cool now. I've came into their life when I was like 13 years old. So after service one night, Kevin Bond was walking by, and I stopped him. I'm 13. I said, "Man, I really enjoyed you playing." And Kevin, it's so funny. He put his head on my head and he messed my head up. "Man, just keep practicing, kid." And kept going. Now,
That sounds right.
Somebody would have looked at that and said, "Well, he didn't say nothing else." Listen, he didn't have to say nothing else. He spoke to me. I thought I could do anything. So what happened is I went home after that convention, and my mom had an old upright piano downstairs, and I just opened it up, and I was like, they was playing this thing. You know, my mom been playing it, and as soon as I put my hands on the keyboard, it was a D minor 9 chord. And I was like, I didn't know that's what it was, but that's what it was. I just know what it is now. So I said, that was crazy. That's luck. You know how you luck up on something? I went and I did it again. It was an F minor 9. It didn't matter what I would put my hands on the piano. It was a minor 9 chord. And I said, "Andrew." And he came downstairs and said, "What?" I said, "Look." He said, "How you doing that?" I said, "I don't know." And it was more like,
come on, man.
It was like, that's kind of how we started. So then he was like, "Man, you should, what about this song?" He started playing. We was playing commission songs, Clarkson songs. I just started learning how to play by ear. I could play anything I've heard. I can mimic it. I wasn't able to play on my own. I was just mimicking. Then it turned into me and my brothers playing for offering. I'm now in a lane that I can take that my brother wasn't in the way of. So now I'm the guy telling, "Hey man, let your brother play guitar," you know? And it was like, I was on keys. So my brother and I became a one-man band. The story's coming to an end and to the journey. So at this point, I'm an MD. So if somebody's coming into town at age 14, they're asking me to MD for that artist. Vanessa Bell Armstrong coming to town. I was putting the band together, and everybody was in their 20s, and I was 14, and I was the MD, and they hired me because I can play your record. I wasn't going to do nothing else. I wasn't going to add my own twist or nothing. I'm going to play your record. So I was doing that at age 14. So then Kevin Bond got a chance to come the next year, and I saw him. They did a recording from my mother, and Joe Smith couldn't come play bass. He was a bass player for this. So it was just my brother, Andrew, Kevin Bond, and an organist. And I watched Kevin Bond play a whole live session with no bass player. 10 songs, full mains. It didn't make sense to me. I was like, how is he doing this? So Kevin was a very huge inspiration for me at age 14. Yeah. So then that's when I met Cedric Thompson. He was 17. And then we ended up playing together, and John P. Key was on Oxys. Nobody really knew him. I mean, this was just how my life was. My life was. And I'll never forget my first live concert in front of everybody playing for just choir. I had Richard Smallwood on the front row, the Hawkins on the front row, Marvin Winans, and Tremaine Hawkins. All of them was all on the front row. BBCC, they was all on the front row of this service in Chicago. And they was on the front row, and I'm playing. And my mama's just smiling on the organ like, "Y'all hear my son?" But I played the song from the live recording that Kevin Bond played with no bass player on. And I played the solo exactly like he did it because I can mimic. And Kevin Bond was on the front row, and he was just like, "What?" And as a young guy, I really want to ask him again, what was you thinking? Like, when you saw me, that's the kid you just rubbed his head and said, "Keep practicing." You inspired me. That's why I call him the jumper cable. Because he jumped me to be able to doing it. But it came to an end when me and my brother started fighting because I started saying, "I'm gonna be a producer. I don't know what a guitar player is supposed to do." I don't know what a bass player is supposed to do. I don't know what nobody's supposed to do but the keyboards. And a drum, I need to learn how to do these other instruments. So I'm 16 years old, and I tell my brother, hey, bro. He's like, yeah. I said, listen, man, don't be mad at me. I said, but I'm going to have to leave you for a while. I was like, I got to learn how to do this stuff, and I can't do it with you here. I was like, I need to learn how to be a producer, so we're going to not be playing together for a while, but I'm going to come back. So my brother was like, you snothead boy, I can't believe you. What? You da-da-da-da. I mean, it made sense why he was fussing at me, but I knew that's what I had to do. And I'll never forget, I turned 17, and I came, this is around the time I'm coming to Florida. Right before that, I told my brother to set up his drums. I met him, and he was mad at me and everything. He was really mad. And I said, set up your drums, you know. He's like, yeah. I said, you remember that song, blah, 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 blah? He's like, yeah. I was like, let's play that. He said, we don't have a bass player. We don't have a guitar player. We don't have nothing. I said, oh, yes, we do. I had a Alesis MMT8. I programmed the guitars. I programmed the bass. I programmed the auxes. And I had like a percussion track for him. And I said, I'm going to play keys. You're going to play drums. I said, I got a band right here. I said, when you hear the 4 counts, count it off. I pushed the MMT8. And then me and my brother was playing. And we played a whole song. And it was full. You know, it probably was candy back then. But for us, it was like, man, we don't need a band. I said, yeah, we back, man. I'm back, man. It's time for us to play. Let's do some music. Let's do some recordings. Because now I know what a guitar player is supposed to do. I know it. So I was always this young way of thinking, but I was this grown man way of thinking. So me and my brother got real close. We started playing together a lot. Around this time, this is when I meet Terry. Around this time, this is when I meet you. You know, we're like a 2-man band type of thing with him. Then we started adding real musicians in with us. Now we got a bass player. Now we got this. Now we got that. So I was always meant to be a producer. I knew that's what I wanted to do when I was 15. That's a little different now because a lot of guys know they want to do music and they do it. And they was making more money than me while I was learning. People was making $1,500 a week playing for a play or a tour. And I was making $200 at the church. I didn't make the money that my peers were making, but I took that sacrifice to be a producer. Now the guys that can play like crazy, they all want to produce now. But it's kind of hard because that's an art that requires a lot of unselfish thinking. And it's kind of hard when you don't go that way. So I don't regret it. I'm happy that I did what I did, but I went through a lot of sacrificing, not making no money. Because there was no money in experimenting on people's records. And then everybody was on a play, or on a tour, making $1,500 a week and driving nice. And I didn't have nothing but $200 a week. So that's my story with music. That's kind of how I started with my family. And to this day, till my mother died in 1998, she got a chance to hear that Kim Burrell record. I played it from beginning to the end. She died like 2 months after that. But she got a chance to hear it. And she's like, what made you do that? So we had a little production talk. She's like, why the background's doing that? That's a major chord. Why are you singing a minor? Like, what is that? So my mom was having these kind of conversations on Kim's record. Then, of course, she passed after that, but she got a chance to hear it, which I was very happy. And I didn't know that record was going to be the record that set me up for the rest of my life. God bless me, over 80 albums after that. You know?
Wow. How did you get to that point?
Which point is this?
As far as that Kim record.
Oh, well, first of all, gospel wouldn't trust me. Gospel wouldn't trust me. When I started really getting into producing into my early 20s, at the early 20s, I was sequencing. I had a ASR 10 in Sonic, you know, and I had my MMT8 and I had the drum machines. I had an R8, you know, rolling R8. I had all my stuff and I was just doing tracks. But every time a gospel label would hear me, I would do these songs for all of the gospel artists and they would love it. They'd be like, woo, that sounds great, but we're going to get such to do it. They would never give me a chance to produce the stuff that they was jamming in their car. They loved what I was doing, but I don't know if it was a rule, but if you wasn't at the table, you didn't get to produce nothing. So gospel didn't trust me to produce anything. So this R&B dude did. His name is Charlucci Finney. I'll never forget Charlucci. He was with Jodeci at the time. He was like, man, you coming up with all these beats? Man, I'm going to get you to New York. We're going to do. So I went into the secular game and started working with a lot of these ghetto R&B groups and different things like that. And then that was my first production deal with him. That's where technology came in. And I realized that for gospel music, we wasn't using technology. I realized we were just pookie in it, like just go in our basement and record or go in the studio and let them tell us what we can use and not use. And we were just doing records, and mixing wasn't a real thing, all of that. But when I was out doing the secular stuff, I was with real mixers and I was seeing real technology happen. So I learned a lot of technical savvy when I was doing that. I did that from like 1993 to like 95. But I didn't like the lifestyle, leaving the club. This is the same dude that didn't go to college, because of women. I didn't like the lifestyle of the world. It's like, we're going to strip joints after sessions. We're going to clubs after sessions. I don't want to do that. Take me back to the hotel. So I got the nickname Church Boy. They was calling me, well, we got to take Church Boy. Who going to take Church Boy back to the hotel? Because we about to go get lit, And I'm like, yeah, who's taking me? I was convinced that I don't need to be there, but I had to do it a lot. I had to go a lot. I didn't like the lifestyle. So then I left that life, and then I went back and I got a call from Boyz II Men and them I had a guy named Sam Turner. He did the I Don't Ever Want to See You Again hit. He had that Cinderella song. And he showed up at my house with his luggage and said, I'm not leaving until I get a record deal. So we kind of worked on a couple of songs, and then Boyz II Men called the house one day and heard him and offered him a deal. So that gave me 2 slots on the album. So I went out to work with them. They found out that I was the only one that knew how to work Pro Tools 4, because I started Pro Tools when it was 1.0. I started Pro Tools when it first came out. I was there in the transition of analog tape moving into DAWs that are using. So engineers didn't want to punch where I wanted them to punch, because a lot of them were analog guys who are used to punching clean punches at real lines and cutting analog tape. So when I would say, I said, this is digital. I can punch anywhere. I said, hey, punch the. Oh, we can't do that, Doc. We got to do the whole, we got to record the whole line. I said, but I like the line. I just don't like the. Just you should be able to just highlight that the, let them sing, and then I'm going to just get that the. Engineers didn't want to do that. They used to analog. They like, no, let's just do the whole line. So the studio, I was running engineers off at the studio. The studio was like, yo, you are upsetting our engineers, Asaph. He's like, you can't use our engineers no more, or we're going to have to do something else. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? He said, we got you set up downstairs in a little room with a Pro Tools rig in there. You can learn how to do your own sessions. Now, these are some people that shouldn't even help. These are white people. They wasn't thinking about God. They weren't thinking about my life. They weren't thinking about nothing. They set me up downstairs so I can learn, so I don't upset their engineers. That's when I started working on Pro Tools 1.0. So keep in mind, when I'm with Boyz II Men, Pro Tools 4.0 was out, and it had some other things. And I was just quick. Here's a producer that can cut vocals, who knows how to punch and all this other stuff. So that made me popular with a lot of the secular world. But then I thought I hit it. Man, these are guys, they great. They sing just about love. Now my convictions as a Christian is feeling better. I don't have to go to the strip joints and all this other stuff. But then I saw the most bizarre stuff. Like, we got locked in a room one night. I'll say it. We got locked in a room one night. I'll never forget. It was 6 locks on the lock, and we was working, and one of them said, we're not leaving until we get our song. And I was like, okay, cool. That makes sense. I can understand me saying, hey, Terry, if you don't get these drums, I got to get these drums. I need them by tomorrow. You're not leaving this room to get my drums. Terry might say, all right, Doc, I got you. But Terry's not looking for me to close the door and hear click, 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 click.
Like literally.
What's going on here,
literally lock Terry. Literally, first of all, that wouldn't work with any of y'all on this thing. But back then, I didn't understand what was happening, because I was confused, because one of the Boyz II Men was locked in the room with me. I said, so wait a minute. We out, what's going on? Yeah. So
weird,
then,
first of all.
It was crazy. So we didn't get out of that room. The next morning showed up, and we hear kick, 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 come in, and I'm hype. I can't wait for them to unlock this door. I'm about to tell them, first of all, y'all know how rebellish I am, Bakers. So I was ready. Listen, before I could open my mouth, one of the dudes stopped me and said, hey, no, please, you're gonna mess it up for all of us. Just stop. You're gonna mess it up for all of us. Don't say nothing. He just cussed us all out. I was like, what's going on? Like, why? And then he left. I said, why did y'all let that happen? He said, man, they are bread, they are water. I said, man, Jesus Christ is my bread and I started getting churchy, right? So I was like, no. So the next morning, they heard what I did, the guy in charge, and they loved what I did. This is back then dealing with some Sony money. We're talking, it's a lot of stuff I can say. But it was just really crazy. They came in, they loved what I did, was massaging my shoulders, saying they're going to get me a house, they're going to fly me out. Now, this is a guy who wants to do gospel music, but nobody won't trust me to do it. So the world is giving me an opportunity to do it. And they gave me a tour around the studio. And it was this moment, fellas, that I realized I didn't need to be there. I was taken upstairs in this room where the gym was. He's like, yeah, man, you can play basketball anytime you want. I'm like, oh, man, this is great. Went to this room that had 6 locks. Don't ask me why 6 is the locks they picked. He unlocked them 6 locks. There was a white padded room, like them straitjacket rooms. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was full of computers, full of keyboards and drum machines, and a table with some water there. And it was no heat, no air. It was 2 producers in there tracking, sweating. They've been locked in there. I don't know how long. I said, I ain't making none of this stuff up. So
is this a movie you saw?
You asked me, how did I get to Kim Burrell Everlasting Life? You're asking me, how did I get there? This is how I got there.
Okay.
God knew I needed to see that. Because I was pretty sold that this is where I can be. I could be out in the world doing music and doing this. And it's not judgment of doing worldly music or gospel music, because gospel's evil too, but it's just everywhere, right? But it was just a lifestyle that goes along with winning in that place. You just had to, there's so much you had to do. So God knew I needed to see that. They were locked, they were sweating. And they was like, yeah, man, this is Asaph. He's a producer. He's like, yeah, man, he's my guys, man. He said, how y'all doing? Man, we doing great. Y'all almost done? Are we almost done? I'm like, great. Y'all need something? No, we good. All right, man. Proud of y'all. He said, thanks, man.
He said, be in there next week.
he said, thanks, man. They closed the door. He closed the door and he locked them back in. And he said, let me show you the rest of them. He said, let me show you the rest of the place. I said, that's going to be me. I'm about to be in this room locked up with a house that they paying for. I said, if I can just get out of this building, they probably will never, ever see me again. So this is what I'm thinking. So I get out of there and I'm like, I'm going home. This was sad. They don't know what happened to me all this time. I still haven't given them a reason why I'm gone or what I left. And we're talking about 1995. I left them without an explanation.
30 years.
Didn't come back.
Y'all don't know why I left.
Left the disk drive, everything. I had to do that. So I left. So I went home and a few months went by. And then Sam, the artist that I was there for, was on Keenan Ivory Wayans' show. And all of a sudden, he tells them the story about how he came to my doorstep. He said my name. Yeah. And I told Asaph Ward, I was like, man, I ain't leaving without a record deal. So he told the whole story, how it worked. He said, we worked in the studio. We did this, that, and the other. Boyce and Man comes down out of the stairs on the show with a plaque saying he went multi-platinum or whatever. And all I know is right before that, the Holy Spirit, and I'm clear about this. The Holy Spirit told me to just let all of that go. I need you to come out and I want you to come out and do music for me. Now that you know what you know, just come out and do it with me, leave it. I had left secular completely. I was managing Sam and had some percentage of royalties and stuff. And God said, give that away too. Just give it all away. So I sold my 10% of him that I had to someone else. And I saw them come down and bring him this big check that I was supposed to have a percentage of that I gave away. And I never forget, I started crying. I was like, Lord, you told me to leave this, but look what I just left. And I'm just crying. And I said, Lord, you got to do something.